Hello and welcome back to another hashtag Patchats. Back again. This is now the second edition of our new hashtag Patchats every Friday, the podcast every Friday, video every Wednesday, Laugh at Pat schedule that got launched last week. Now, in last week's podcast and in the promotion, I was saying that Laugh at Pat was now available on podcasting apps, and I just discovered tonight, Saturday night, that that wasn't true. And Maury read the results, and he said that was a lie. And so it turns out it wasn't available on there. But now it should be available. And, I feel like this has already been a strong start to this podcast. I've had one or two glasses of red wine as I've been editing together this Friday's podcast. It's Saturday night, and I was going to maybe social and, be social and socialize. And instead I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a little bit of work, drink a little bit of wine. I realized I didn't have my intro yet, and I was like, well, fun. Let's have a little intro. Last week's podcast was brought to us by Club Mate. This week's podcast can be brought to us by a 2019 Cab Sauv from South Africa, and it is delightful. Yep, it is delightful. Now, it wouldn't be a hashtag Patchats if I didn't promote other videos within my podcast. And since I'm drinking wine, I do have to say you should check out the Wine Life podcast. I believe it was the second or third ever hashtag Patchats here on the Laugh at Pat channel with my childhood best friend, Zach, who close friends of mine know works in the wine industry, because maybe I mentioned that once or twice. But anyways, he works in the wine industry, and we talk about wine and things. But that's not what this week's episode is about. This week's hashtag Patchats is with Ciarán O'Connell, who I met in the kind of open mic Berlin stand-up comedy scene, and who also runs the YouTube channel, which I thought I had memorized it, but I'll have to check my notes. Out of Curiosity. He does kind of travel documentaries, kind of episodic travel documentary type things on his YouTube channel, Out of Curiosity, which the link is for in the bio. I haven't watched all of them, I have to admit. Sorry, Ciarán. But I did watch his latest work, which was about his experience traveling across Russia on the Trans-Siberian Railway, which was interesting. And also, I mean, he just has an eye, kind of, in my opinion, for cinematography. He just had some really beautiful shots, and I felt like it was just well edited, and just for me, it captured part of what I would want a kind of travel documentary to capture, which isn't just I went to this place and these are things you can do in this place, but also those feelings of just being on the road, so to speak, and they're just images and moments that evoke a certain emotion, and I felt like he captured some of that. So anyways, I highly recommend you guys check out his YouTube channel, Out of Curiosity, which once again is in the description. And but yeah, I met Ciarán in the kind of Berlin open mic scene. We didn't really speak much, but he seemed like an interesting guy, and I thought he would be fun to talk to. So I asked him if he would be willing to do a podcast, and he was like, yeah. So he came over, and we had a couple of beers, and we talked about what it was like for him growing up in Ireland, and his experience traveling, and what led him to start kind of making these little travel documentary type things. And then eventually we kind of talk also about comedy and what got him into doing comedy and his creative process with that. And I don't know, I had a really nice time talking to him. And just now, as I was editing our conversation together, aided with the help of one or two glasses of red wine, I thought to myself, like, this is an interesting conversation. Like, this was enjoyable for me to have the conversation, and I think it is going to be enjoyable for you to watch and or listen to the conversation. So let's, without further ado, get into it. My conversation with Ciarán O'Connell. So to start, do you want to just we have met
Yeah.
basically in passing twice.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, literally in passing.
About 250 seconds in all.
Yeah. So I don't know anything about you basically.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell me a little bit about where you grew up? Was it a village, city?
Yeah, so I grew up in Dublin,
Okay.
but it's not in the city centre. It wouldn't be hard enough for that.
Yeah.
Grew up in the suburbs, so it's about a 20-minute train.
Okay.
In County Dublin, it's the official postcode. So yeah, when I open up my curtains in the morning, there's a big field and loads of cows.
And the type of place that your parents could just send you out for the afternoon on a summer day, and you just come back by dinner, or
Yeah. Although I wasn't allowed in the field.
Okay.
Because the fucking bulls are there, so
oh shit,
that's also possible.
So a dangerous field.
Yeah, well, there wasn't that many bulls, but they would scare you into thinking that.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a kind of an estate, so it's semi-detached houses, all attached to each other. So there's 300 homes there altogether. And yeah, just be home by 5, be home by 6 for dinner. Sure, you'd be hungry enough by then.
Yeah.
So.
And did you have siblings and stuff when you were growing
Yeah, I
up?
got 3 brothers.
3 brothers.
Three
and where do you
brothers.
fall in the
I came in 3rd place.
3rd place, the bronze medal?
Yes.
Did they give it to you right out of the womb, or they waited till you turned 18?
18, yeah.
Yeah.
Along with a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah. And so what was it like? So you were the baby then?
I was a baby for about 5 years, and then I've got a younger brother as well.
Okay, so 4 in total, including
4 in
yourself.
total, yeah. No sisters.
That's a lot of boys.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. A lot of fighting.
Yeah.
A cub mentality, kind of outdoing each other, and I think that is reflected in our adult lifehoods.
Yeah.
These days, kind of vying for the spotlight, maybe.
How did your parents manage that? Because I'm an only child, and one of my parents' mantras to me where they were like, 1 is the perfect number. You still outnumber the children at 2 to 1 with a single child, and that was the level of energy they wanted to put towards parenting. So how do you manage 4 boys? That seems
Keep them all in the same room.
yeah.
I mean, we had 3 bedrooms altogether. One of them was called the box room. So it's basically small enough for a single kind of army bed.
Yeah.
And the other one was a bit bigger, and 3 of us slept in there.
Okay.
But yeah, how did they manage it? Persistence, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Were your parents the type that were lay down the law, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially with myself in teenagehood, I was kind of being quite rebellious. So there was a lot of laying down of the law.
Had your brothers set any sort of precedent for you of maybe we're going to go out and bullshit a little bit to soften the blow for you? Or were you kind of the first to be
I took it to a new level. I mean, I remember once my brother was got in trouble for ordering a pizza to someone's house that wasn't his house. So they were just kind of prank calling.
Yeah.
And then hiding in the bushes and just watching the pizza guy be like, "Hi, I've got a pizza for you." And they're like, "You didn't order a pizza." And then they were
hilarity
they
ensues.
got caught for that. Yeah, hilarity ensues. Yeah. But I kind of took it to a new level. It was put on the straight and narrow for sure. I mean, I was almost I was taken to a boarding school and we walked around the grounds, and they're like, "So Ciarán, maybe this would be good for you to get away from your public school. Things aren't going so well there." So they were like, "But we're not going to make you go here. It's a great opportunity for you." But in the end, I just didn't want to leave my domain. I was very happy in school, really.
And
So they didn't force me to. But
like, I mean, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but like, was the thing that like you weren't doing well in school, or was it like partying, or
no, it
shit
wasn't,
with girls?
nothing
Like,
to do with the grades or anything like that. My grades were always fairly okay. I was just kind of breaking the rules on school trips, like caught drinking whiskey and stuff when we were on a cycling trip in County Kerry in the West Coast, and I just got caught for that and another myriad of things, little things. Like when I was 14 or something like that, I stole a bottle of whiskey from my parents as well, and well, as you do.
Yeah,
as you do. But I was
these
caught.
things happen.
I was caught. Yeah, I was caught on the way out. Just at the end of the driveway, I had it under my jumper. It's like so very not covert kind of operation. It was really, really quite poor, but it was under my jumper. Very thin little summer jumper as well. My parents are like, "Why is he bringing a jumper out? It's roasting."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Ciarán, stop right there." And I was like, "Why?" And they're like, "What's under your jumper?" I was like, "Nothing." And they found a bottle of Bushmills, and they're like, "You're 14 years old, you skinny little stick, and you're gonna go out and drink like a liter of whiskey like in a field with your friends." I was like, "Yeah, well, I was gonna share it."
Yeah, I wasn't gonna drink the whole thing. I'm not gonna be stingy about it.
That was the first thing, and then there was a couple of other things.
Yeah. Okay. And do you get along with your parents now?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And what about like with your brothers? Are you guys like would you guys play together? Did you guys kind of all have your own separate lives?
No, it was always games. Always competitions, like
sports or like board games, or what kind of?
Yeah, sports and board games, but also just using our imaginations and coming up with games.
Fun
all the time. Like, I don't even these days, it's still quite a healthy competition kind of feeling at the home. It's like, let's play a game. Like, boom. Like one that me and my younger brother play, I think it was. We're standing in the kitchen, you're making a cup of tea, but you're not allowed to have the cup of tea until you launch the tea bag from across the room. So you're just kind of standing at the other end of the kitchen, and you're just like, after like 40 tries, you're like, "Oh my god, I'm never gonna get this cup of tea."
Yeah.
But always little games like that in the pub. The mat game when you flick it up and try to catch it. The coaster, I guess you call it. So you flip it up and try to land it on top of your drink. Okay. Or coin football, coin rugby, all these games you can play with 3 coins and 2 coins and 4 coins just across.
Did you guys ever play this game? Like when I was in probably like 12, 13 years old, this was huge at school. It's like you'd take a coin and you'd spin it, and then you were all trying to like keep it spinning.
Okay.
And if it fell over, then you had to put your fist down, and then someone would be able to just
Yeah. I think we just did that we just did that anyway.
Was just for like...
Yeah, we just did that anyway. Like,
let's see if we can make our knuckles bleed.
I can't remember any competition to who got it, but it was just like, let's play a game of knuckles, I think it was just called. And you just rifle it into each other, and you come away just bleeding.
Such a wild concept for me, because like now I would really never like allow, like I don't know, I'm pain averse, so I wouldn't be like, "Oh, let's just for a laugh." Like
that's what kids do, though, I guess. It's just trying to outdo each other.
Yeah.
In myriads of ways. Yeah.
So do your brothers live back in Dublin now, or are you the only one that's kind of international? Or
no, my oldest brother is a scientist in Melbourne, Australia.
Oh wow! What kind of science?
Probably best way to cover everything would just say nanotechnology.
Okay.
It's probably the best way to put it.
Scary.
So looking for cures for certain diseases using nanotechnology. Is probably a broad way of putting it, but probably simplest to understand, because sometimes, like when he took us into the lab a few years ago, and he was just taking us through all the fridges where they're kind of stem cell research, and he's just going through it, and I'm just like trying to keep up. Like, it's like, wow, this is really intense.
Yeah, I bet. And what are your other
So yeah, he's been in Melbourne now for more than 10 years, I'd say, at this stage. I think it was like 2007 when he first went over there. So yeah, 13 years, I guess, altogether. My next brother is a street performer.
Okay.
He would do, and he in Amsterdam was most recently. So he'd be juggling fire on top of a, it's called a giraffe, not the actual, not the
Not
animal.
a literal giraffe.
Yeah, but a unicycle. But
Okay.
the seat is like
Giraffe, but
yeah,
height.
it's kind of like up, like when I'm standing up, so I'm like 184, so it's probably 2 meters.
Okay.
2 meters high, so someone from the crowd needs to help him up. So
Yeah.
so he'd be doing that in summers. Obviously, this summer nothing happened, but yeah, he's a performer. My youngest brother is an economist with the Irish government, so it's kind of a mixed bag.
I was gonna say, 'cause,
there's
like,
no correlation between.
I
Us, which is
mean,
kind of nice.
That's like a wild range of things. I mean, you obviously have some sort of kind of performative streak yourself. We met kind of in this like Berlin comedy scene.
Yeah.
And then yeah, like scientist, economist, kind of like circus street performer.
Yeah.
It's like family dinners must be kind of like interesting.
Yeah, man, I can't wait for Christmas. Like, I've missed Christmas last year. I was in China at the time. I try not to miss 2 Christmases in a row for the last few years because we'll get to that in a bit. But I make travel documentaries as a large part of my time. If I'm not in Berlin, I'd usually be here for about 6 months, maybe from March or April right up until the end of October. And then I would set off my travels and make a documentary. So hitchhiking across Argentina, Chile, Peru, Bolivia, and then Cuba as well. There's just finished one last week of the Trans-Siberian Railroad.
I saw the trailer that you posted for
nice,
it. It looks
yeah.
super, super interesting. What I wanted to ask you about this actually. I didn't know that you had done so many of these, but did you like study documentary filmmaking, or did you just like get a camera and start trying to figure it out? Like how did that thing start for you? Because that's kind of a unique niche to get into.
Yeah, well, I think it started when I was a child. You know, I wasn't making movies, but I was watching movies. Like that was kind of the big draw. It was just, you know, Sunday night, 9:00. You know, there would be a movie starting after the Watershed, so there'd be cursing in it, there'd be sex scenes and stuff like that. And I was like, what, 10? So my parents I'd probably get the first 15 minutes into the movie, and my parents come in Sunday night and be like, get to bed, you're not supposed to be watching that.
Yeah.
And I was like, like after 15 minutes you're kind of hooked, you know.
Yeah.
So
also, those
really...
things like sex and drugs are extra thrilling when you're like 9 or 10 years old in like a movie.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
But sometimes it'd be like a Jackie Chan movie, and I'm still there's no sex and stuff and that, but not even cursing, but like even so, probably because of the violence,
Yeah.
the kicking, the punching. So that kind of broke me, because I'd go upstairs to my room, it'd be like 9:30, and be still buzzing from the first 15 minutes of the movie, and then I would just take out the atlas and just look through the atlas and just be like looking down South America or in the northern tip of Russia or something like that, in the tundra, and I'd be like, what is life like in that little corner of the world? And I was always just that just kind of lingered and planted a seed in my head. I was like, I need to go to all these places at some point, and just to see, you know, what the hell's going on this planet, all over the place. So that was kind of the basis of the idea. I mean, I had got my first camera when I was about 18. I asked for a decent DSLR, but my parents were like, nah.
Yeah.
They were like, nah, he's not going to use it.
We have 4 boys.
Yeah.
Here's like a beta cam.
Yeah. So they got me a point and shoot.
Okay.
Which, I mean, I wanted a proper DSLR, but my parents probably, maybe it was maybe pricey, or maybe they thought I wouldn't use it or something like that. I don't know. But I used it. I just took it out with me everywhere and tried to take some artistic shots with it. And after getting a few, I was like, actually, this is I kind of like the thrill of getting a photograph. So then in university in Dublin, we have a great system, a visa system to go to the United States. It's called the J1 program. So you can go to the US or Canada for the whole summer if you're returning back for another 2 semesters the following year. So I went to San Francisco 2011, and on my first day I bought a DSLR and then just walked all over the city taking photographs, and I was like, whoa, this is great.
Cool.
Like, this is nice. I didn't make any videos back then, but I was just kind of getting into how to compose shots and just walk, and I just loved just walking around the city completely by yourself, listening to music and just going around taking photographs. I was just like, this is the best. It's the most fun I think I've ever had, and it's all by myself kind of thing.
It's funny you say that, because like I've done a decent amount of traveling myself, and this is really one of my favorite ways to see a city is or to like when I travel, like how I kind of spend my time is like I'm not like a huge museum guy, but just to like pound the pavement and walk all over, and it's like you get a sense of like the rhythm of the city and of the people and the sounds and the smells, and and then to kind of try to capture a little bit of that essence with your camera, I think is super fun.
The way that sentence just makes me want to go outside now and start taking photographs. Like I just want to walk around Prince Lauerberg district right now and just and take photographs. Yeah, it's just, and when you're doing it in a new place, when everything is brand new, your brain is kind of working. It's hardest to try and keep up. It's another kind of sort of a mantra I live by is trying to keep everything possibly as new as possible all the time. So in 2012 or so, I made a video called 1 second every day. So I took one video every single day for a full year, and then put it all together. So it's 365 seconds, so 6 minutes and a bit. But that forced me to get out and do stuff that would be worth filming, you know?
Yeah.
So I didn't end up, I mean, there was a few when I'm just at home and I'm like, shit, it's like 11 o'clock. I haven't done anything today. There's certainly not or you just forget.
Yeah.
And it's like 5 to midnight and you're like, all right, I'll just make a cup of tea. But that's part of life. Or do some press ups or something like that and just film that for 1 second. But in general, it will kind of force you to get out and go and do something, like, and call up your friends and be like, oh, do you want to go to the airport and we'll park the car and just watch the planes come in landing or something like that. And yeah, there's always a sense of adventure brought about by that. I did it for 2 full years and then I was like, okay, I need a break for this.
Yeah. I think that's, because I do some like video stuff, obviously like that's what this podcast is eventually going to go on to, but like I set myself this deadline that I try to do like a new video every week, and sometimes it means that like I kind of make shit that I'm not that proud of,
right.
But I enjoy this artificial deadline, the pressure it puts on me, and that sometimes it leads me to doing stuff, as you're saying, where you're like, okay, normally if I didn't have this, I would probably just fuck off this week, but like I have to do something. And
the Wild Tram was excellent.
Oh, thank you. But I like this. I think there can be a fun part of creativity that comes from this, like forcing yourself to kind of like just go make something and see what happens, and that can go interesting places. Which sounds like this video was kind of like that experience was like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good year to film it. The first year I did it because I lived in San Fran. Oh, sorry, where was I? New York. I did New York the following summer. Yeah, 2012. Then I was in Brussels, in Belgium, studying like my year abroad.
Yeah. Were you studying like film or photography in school, or were you
I
studying
studied
something?
French language, literature, poetry, and also cinema studies. So there was an element of it there, but it was analysis of film rather than pick up a camera whatsoever.
Yeah,
it's all analysis of film, but that was nice.
Yeah,
that was nice. It was just like show up to the lecture hall 7 o'clock. just with a cup of tea and a couple of sweets, and you're just like, here we go.
Yeah.
Like Ingmar Bergman, like, gonna be watching this for the next hour and 45 minutes, and yeah, I love that. That was really, really a nice degree, actually.
That's cool. That I imagine that would like kind of expose you to maybe some kind of like art and philosophy that maybe you wouldn't have necessarily gotten just in your everyday run of the mill interactions. Or
yeah, I mean, there's a good few directors like Tarantino and Kubrick. I'm pretty sure they're constantly quoted as just being like, yeah, I didn't really go to school, like I just watched a ton of movies. Like Kubrick was never really interested in his school work, I don't think. He just he was a well-established photographer by the time he was like 17 or 18. And Tarantino said the best kind of education he got was just from watching movies. So I guess that's where the element of interest came for me. But yeah, there was no picking up a camera and learning anything about composition and like that. I was just learn by doing kind of thing. It was just the idea came to me when I was in Argentina, because I just been kind of making videos from time to time in places that I lived. Like I made one of New York of the summer I was there.
This like 1 second every day kind of thing, or were you doing?
No, that was just about a 5 minutes, 6 minutes kind of a montage of the whole summer. And that was really fun to make. And then
So in this process, you're kind of teaching yourself how to compose a shot and shoot things, but then also are you teaching yourself editing and
yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Is like the shooting is the fun part. I mean, the editing process can be very rewarding. There can be a moment when you get a shot and you put the music to it and you're like, you can actually you stand up from your chair and you're like, so happy with that. It doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
But it's a very nice feeling when that comes together.
There's an element to editing that I enjoy sometimes where it's like I'll have this like clunky block of shit that I shot and it feels like I'm like sculpting it into something, and when it starts to gain some sort of cohesiveness, that's really exciting to me. Where I'm like, I thought this was gonna be total shit, and actually this part right here kind of flows and works, and like that's exciting.
Yeah, I was editing a montage video of Southeast Asia. So I traveled around for about 4 months, 2015, to about 11 countries, I think it was, in about 4 months.
Wow.
And came home with like, about 9,000 clips. And then put 2,352 videos into one 8-minute video, I think it is. That was a long process. That was like that took me like 11 months.
Yeah,
that was a lot, because you'd fall out of love with the project and then you'd get back into it and you'd fall out of love again, like a labor of love, you'd call it. But yeah, through that process, I kind of realized that editing a video like that is a bit like trying to put a jigsaw piece together, but you're choosing how many pieces there are, and you're also choosing the shape of them. So you're just kind of what's even on the picture. Like, everything is just constructed from nothing to this final canvas at the end. Very intense experience. So that one was.
Like to go back a little bit here. So you spend this summer in San Francisco and then the summer in New York, and you're kind of messing around. You're making some videos. You're doing some stuff in Brussels, and then you're in Argentina, and this is kind of the first time that you think to yourself like, oh, I want to make more of like a documentary style piece, or kind of try to tell a narrative or a story or something.
Yeah. So then when I was traveling in Argentina, and I was hitchhiking from outside of Buenos Aires, and I was getting picked up by somebody on the highway, like outside of this town. I think it was called I can't remember the name of the town. But I was leaving. I think I arrived by the train. Somebody was going to pick me up, like I say. So I started walking towards the edge of town, towards the highway to, let's say, exit 304 is where they're going to pick me up, or somewhere like that. And as I was walking along, obviously I had my camera out, and I'm walking along, and I've got like a bag on me, my camera bag, but it's full of flags of all the countries I've been to. They're kind of plastered on. So I was walking by this farmer's house, and he comes out to me, this kind of amazing looking character. He looked like a character from a book. It was incredible. He had these like extremely intense blue eyes, big fat belly, cigarette, like stinking of alcohol.
Yeah.
Completely full of suntan, like he spends his life out in the fields. And he comes up to me like big smile, and there's like no front teeth, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing? Like with all this with all these flags? Like where are you from? Like who are you?" and stuff like that. And I sat there and chatted to him for about 20 minutes or something like that, and I was asking him about what the hell does he do, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like two very opposite ends of the spectrum across the world. So we chatted for about 20 minutes, and then I was like, I've got to go or I'm going to miss this pickup. So I shook his hand and then walked off, and then I took about 10 steps, and I was like, why did I not record that? That would have been such a good and interest. That would have been an extremely insightful little interview to have. Like this random person in the random part of Argentina, in the middle of the country. Like I find that extremely interesting who this random person is. And I was like, this goes back to the seeds of me looking through the atlas. So I was like, I wonder what life is like there. And I was like, why didn't I just record that? And then from that moment on, I was walking along, just in my notebook, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start doing documentaries because this is too much fun. Like, also I wanted to just produce something and have an excuse to travel.
Yeah.
It's probably the meat of it. But it's nice to produce something after you come back, because the videos that I make at the moment are not exactly, I don't make any money off them at all. I think they're largely made for myself when I'm about 80.
Yeah.
And I can look back and just be like, wow, that was a heck of a trip, or it was a heck of a life.
Yeah.
Like,
well, even in the editing process, I imagine it's like you get to drop back into these memories for a moment of, this.
Especially during COVID times.
Yeah.
Because this has been recorded in the middle of the pandemic. Second lockdown.
Yeah.
In, October 2020?
October 2020, yeah.
So yeah, if I'm spending kind of 8 hours a day in front of the computer, going through my footage of Russia and stuff, yeah, it's just vicarious living in the past in a way, but also, because I got another one to make now of China. I have one of India that I haven't finished yet. I have one of the Camino de Santiago, the pilgrimage across Spain. So, one of Porto as well. So there's actually a good bit of work to do over the next few months. One of the reasons I'm actually staying this year in Berlin in the winter. Well, obviously the main reason being the fact that I have no money.
Yeah.
Nobody has any money.
Yeah.
Everybody's unemployed.
Nobody has money, and you can't go anywhere.
And you can't go anywhere. So yeah, I mean, potentially. I mean, if I was really, really wanting to do it, I could probably do a workaway program.
Yeah.
In some small little village in Italy, and just be a work hand on the farm, and you could probably do that for a few months, and you probably wouldn't be affected so much by the pandemic. So, I mean, it's definitely possible. You get your room and board. They probably give you like a tenner. I did that in Spain a few years ago in Andalusia. I was working in a hostel, so they just pay for your room. They give you a room and basically just work on the reception for a little bit, and then just clean the rooms and stuff like that. It was like maximum working day 4 hours, and then that's it. They can't legally ask you to do any more.
Cool.
It's a great way to travel.
Well, let's take a little pause here.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Well done. Okay, so we were talking before we left off. You were saying kind of how you first started with this travel documentary idea or thing when you were in Argentina. And one of the things I was kind of interested to ask you about is, one, traveling. I don't know. I have 2 moms, and so I feel like because I had so much like mother energy, I maybe run a little bit on the nervous side. But sometimes, like, traveling with my fucking expensive camera, being a person with not a lot of money, I for sure was paranoid about, just getting ripped off or someone trying to fuck with me for my my camera, because it's really the only thing that I had of any worth that I was traveling with. So I was wondering how you dealt with that.
Yeah. It doesn't even cross your mind my mind for 99.8% of the time. I don't really think about anything bad happening. Reminds me of times when, after I just fell in love with it in San Francisco and started making content, and I was like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. Like my brain enjoys this. I seem to be my brain seems to be sending me lots of dopamine every time I do this, so I'll probably continue doing it. So it never really became an issue. Like the other day, I was walking along with my camera out. It was like 8 or 9 o'clock, pitch dark. I'm walking by some kids in Kreuzberg, just about to go through Gurlitzer Park, and they're like, "Oh, camera boy, like take a photo of us." And you're just like, "Well, all right then, then you fucking then just get them together." And then they kind of feel like superstars, like. So you're just like, okay, yeah, get the bike and do this, and then just like give us a pose or something, and they're like, yeah, we can do that. So you kind of reverse the roles.
Yeah.
Because if you just walk away, it might be like fuck off, you fucking stupid artist bastard or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the way it would happen in Dublin anyway. But yeah, make them feel like special in a way.
Yeah. Did you ever have any moments when you were traveling that you felt like...
Twice. It happened twice that I felt unsafe. That's the only times I felt like, wow, shit, like I could be robbed here. Like, once was at Gare du Nord in Paris.
Okay.
That is a rough looking place. I think I was going there to take a bus somewhere. I was there like probably 1 a.m. to get the bus, and holy shit, that place is dodgy.
Yeah.
That is dodgy. Like every nook and cranny has got a homeless person there. And I was standing at the bus stop, and there was like 15 lads, big lads of all races and colours standing around, just kind of me and this other lady standing there, and they were just kind of just staring at me like quite intently. And I was like, oh, this feels awful. Like I really feel under pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of, wow. Like I haven't done anything to provoke anything here, and I shouldn't really have any fear of them because there was no reason to think that there would be, but just that feeling, dead of night, 1 o'clock in the morning, light rain, just pure silence, the odd car driving by, and just kind of 15 of them just like looking at me like with my backpack, and I'm just like, oh, this feels really where's this bus kind of thing.
Yeah.
The other time came in Chile. I lived in Chile for half a year because I wanted to learn Spanish. But Chilean Spanish, it's quite different.
Chilean,
as a lot of Spanish people say, like that's not Spanish, Ciarán.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, actually, because I went to a Spanish immersion school in Costa Rica, and then from there I went to Chile, and I left Costa Rica feeling like, well, I'm by no means fluent, but like this will be okay. I can get around now. And I got there, and I was
How long was the immersion?
It was like 5 weeks.
Nice. That's a good.
Yeah, and I really, I in those 5 weeks, I wasn't like, some people were there and they were like, I'm kind of here to be at the beach, and I was really here like, I'm planning to spend the next 7 months in Central and South America. Like I need to learn some fucking Spanish.
Oh yeah.
So I really worked at it, but then I got to Chile and I was like, oh fuck. Like,
yeah. Weón.
Yeah.
¿Cachai? ¿Cachaste?
Yeah.
Más o menos. It's just like the no pronunciation of the S.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a tough learning ground because my Spanish was okay because I spoke French, and just kind of one Romance language will link to the other quite smoothly with a bit of effort. But yeah, I was teaching English in Berlin when I first came here, And as I was a teacher, the school also offered me free language lessons in any language that I wished, except for German.
Cool.
So they offered it to Italian, French, Spanish, or whatever. And I was like, I'm planning to go to Chile, so I'm definitely going to jump on this. So I would actually give like kind of 2-3 hour classes, and then there'd be another hour and a half of at the end of the day, I kind of worked my schedule out that I would teach English, and then after that become the student. So just walk into the next classroom and just take out my books and start learning. But the lessons were in German.
Oh shit!
So I was getting German lessons and Spanish lessons at the same time, which was pretty interesting. And but it was kind of okay. I mean, the guy from Bolivia, it's a very slow way of speaking. Bolivia, kind of Peru as well, very very slow.
Yeah.
Very good places if you want to go and get say basis knowledge of Spanish, like very slow speaking. So his German obviously was quite easy to understand, I found. So
My brain is hurting just thinking about you, like, trying to teach. Because that's the other thing is, like, my girlfriend is German, and, like, I never realized how little of a grasp I had on the English language until I started, like, getting questions about it. And
oh
being
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't know the word for that. I'm not sure, like, what this grammar rule is. She's a better speller in English than I am. Like, I
Yeah.
ask her to spell words.
What's the difference between effect and affect?
Yeah.
Like all these little things. No, I was an English teacher. I lived in South Korea for a year.
Okay. But still, like, if you're teaching English, coming up with a lesson plan, and then you're going to learn a second language, and that language is being taught in a third language,
Yeah.
and you're trying to just...
Yeah. It's crazy how the head of mind works. But yeah, it was all right. I mean, I don't remember ever being overwhelmed by it. So I think his level of German was just about right. And like I say, he spoke quite slowly. So
Yeah.
at that stage, I was already here for 6 months or something like that. So it was manageable.
So, to go back, you said there was also an incident in Chile then at some point where you felt kind of unsafe or...
Yeah, so I was doing photography for a night, kind of a club night in Valparaiso on the coast.
Okay.
It's like kind of great party spot, Valparaiso. Lots of graffiti everywhere, like kind of one of the major party spots of Chile. So I was doing photography there for a nightclub for a night, and we arrived in the van, and like 4:00, and the thing isn't kicking off till 8. So I was like, I'm gonna go down to the center and just walk around and take photographs until people start arriving. So left it was kind of up in the hills, because the city's on a hill, just right at the coast.
Uh-huh.
So I started walking down the hill, and I was like, actually, that's a great vista, like, of the whole city. So I set up my camera, set it onto timer, and just tried to get in the photo myself, because that could be one thing. Sometimes you just wish that you were in a photo, but
a million photos, but no photos of you.
Yeah, it's the struggle. But sometimes you've got ample time, and you can just set up the timer. So I was doing that, and got a photo of me in the background of the city, and I was like, that's a nice one. And then a taxi driver pulls up, and he's like, hey, amigo, ¿qué haces tú aquí? Like, what are you doing here? Like, put that camera away. Like, this is not kind of a safe neighborhood to be walking around as a white guy with a piece of equipment like that, is what he meant.
Yeah.
And I've been told that before, and you're just like, yeah, but I mean, I need the photo.
Yeah.
I have to get the photo, and I can't take the photo without the camera, so it has to be done. So he drove off, and I was like, yeah, whatever, like, it's fine. I've heard that before. And still packing up my bag, and then another taxi driver pulls up, and I'm like, it's the same guy, but no, different guy, bigger mustache. He's like, hey, man, like, nice camera, but be careful with it. And I was like, well, shit, like, this is twice now. And I was like, nah, like, I'll leave this area then. I started walking down the hill, and it was kind of a deserted area at this time. And I'm walking down the hill, and my camera out, start taking photographs of the buildings and stuff like that. And another taxi driver, third one in the space of about 3 minutes, pulls up to me. He's like, just looks at me taking photographs, like, like, be careful. what you're doing there, like that looks expensive. Like, do you want a lift? So I was like, no, I don't have any money for lifts, like for a taxi. So after the third time, I was like, oh, shit, I better put this camera away. So I put it away and started walking down the hill. And then as I turned the corner, that was just like, I mean, it wasn't an apocalyptic zombie scene, but there was a lot of homeless people again with that look in their eyes. That kind of
desperation,
vacant kind of just like,
vacant.
Yeah, just kind of looking for any source of monetary funds and how to get it, whatever, to feed whatever certain drug habit that may have befallen them. So yeah, I felt pretty uncomfortable then, like walking along, and it was just like coming out of the bushes and stuff. I was like, oh my god, this is really. I'm glad I put my camera away actually before turning that corner.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, that's the second time I felt quite uncomfortable. Speaking of uncomfortable, I need the toilet.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Right.
Okay, back from our bathroom break. So I want to talk about comedy. That's the point of this podcast, kind of. But you really piqued my interest with the whole travel documentary thing. So this will be the last thing I ask you about it. But so I was interested about the kind of like what, were there situations where you ever felt uncomfortable with, kind of like you have this expensive equipment. But the other thing I was wondering about is like, what about getting, do you ever find it uncomfortable, like filming or kind of documenting something as far as like, because for example, filming here with like the tram video, I never thought twice about it in the States because it's just kind of people film stuff, and also the law is like if you're in public there's an expectation that you might be in the background of something, know. But I know the laws are kind of different here, and there's more like emphasis on privacy and stuff, and so this really made me feel like a lot more uncomfortable. So I was just wondering, especially like in a place like Russia with your latest project doing the Trans-Siberian, have there been times where people have gotten confrontational about you filming, or is that something that you've had to like learn to overcome?
There is no learning to overcome that feeling when somebody gives you a dirty look, like it's most prevalent here in Germany, I've noticed.
Yeah,
very, very private, because I wanted to make videos about Berlin. I was kind of thinking of doing kind of a character study of each different neighborhood in Berlin. But even small things like videoing people playing table tennis, let's say, in the summer months, I was like, oh, that's a good shot. Like just like 4 games going on. This will look nice, like with the sun and stuff. So I was like setting up the shot, getting it composed, and one of them was like, hey, like Alta, kind photos. Like, no, photos, no videos. I was like, oh. I was like, damn it. Like,
we're not in the club right now. Come on.
They were just really not happy with me videoing them, but like it's their choice. I mean,
yeah.
I don't want to, deliberately, disobey somebody's wishes if they don't want to be in the photograph. That's fair enough. In Russia, yeah, it can be, because especially with a language barrier, or in India or something like that, it can feel quite awkward, but that's why you get a zoom lens.
Yeah.
So if you get like a 300mm zoom lens, you're quite far away from somebody and you can get a photograph. But I've got a photograph of one girl in India, and she's kind of just sitting on an old stairs, but I'm like way down the street when I took this photograph, but she's looking at the camera, I think, with a face of kind of disgust. But I mean, it could be just that's the way she was feeling that particular moment,
or she just has resting disgust.
Yeah,
face.
or she was looking at my camera going like, oh, it's a guy taking a photo of me, or she could have just been looking somewhere else, like,
yeah,
or just not feeling. It's kind of a mystery behind it, I suppose. But there is no, I mean, something you just gotta take the photo. I mean, you can also, swap something with them, because like if you think about the action of taking a photograph, you're taking it from them. So the reciprocal nature of giving them something in return can be a big winner, I think. Like money.
Yeah.
I mean, that hasn't happened too often. People rarely ask for money, but in China it happened a couple of times. There was one particular shot I took of a guy on the River Li in the south of China, and it was just my favorite moment of photography I think I've had. It was just everything just kind of worked out. He started posing for me and stuff like that on his little boat with his cormorants, 2 birds.
Oh yeah.
And after that, as soon as I took all the photographs I wanted, I was just like, actually, I have to give him whatever. Like this was a great moment. So I gave him like a tenner or something like that, maybe €15. I can't remember. Then there was 2 Chinese ladies, kind of like in their 80s, 90s maybe. They were sitting beside like in a small village in China. They were sitting beside this really old bridge, kind of a scenic old bridge. And I walked by with my camera, and they were like, "Oh, hello, like, oh, take a photo." And I was like, "Wow, they actually want me to take a photo." So I started taking a photo, and then after a couple of seconds of video, and then taking photographs, they're like, "Yeah, okay, now give us the money."
Yeah.
So straight away, they were like, "Yeah, you could give us the money."
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a very disputable part of photography. Is how much are you encroaching on people's lives, and how okay is that? But at the end of the day, it just has to be done. There's no 2 ways about it. I mean, yeah, it's the nature of it. Sometimes you might come across as an asshole, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Sometimes you feel like it has to be done.
Yeah, it's an interesting balance to be struck for sure.
I mean, there's also surprising elements of as well. Like I've been walking around with my camera, and you see a guy proposing to a girl, and you just take a photograph of that and a video of that, and then you go over to them and tell them, "I've taken a photograph of this. Would you like it?" And they're like, "Yes,
Yeah,
I would love that." So obviously, I wasn't gonna go over and be like, in the middle of them proposing, I'm like, "Guys, I know this is a pretty seminal moment in your life, but I could get a photo of this you want." Like, you don't really fucking ask.
Yeah,
you want to catch a candle.
guys. I love the proposal, but if you could rotate 10 degrees, the sun would perfectly come over your shoulder.
More tears? Yeah. Can you cry a little bit more?
I'm not feeling that this is meaningful to you.
Could you say no first? Just so...
Let's just get it for the reaction.
Yeah. Just, can you... Okay, go. And I'll just go back to where I was. But yeah, it can work out really, those spontaneous moments. Like, you're not really asking for their permission, but... At the end of the day, they're delighted to have that moment.
Well, also I imagine like the example you gave with like the group of guys where they were like camera guy, and then you're like, come on, get into I think sometimes, like, I don't know, from my experience, that has also been something where like maybe if someone is, I feel like there's some awkward energy there if I'm kind of like, like I'm making a thing, and then they kind of feel included in it. There's a better energetic thing.
Yeah, like they kind of feel like superstars,
Yeah.
I mean, cameras are kind of everywhere these days. Like it's a very strange field to be in, with the fact that everybody has a camera in their pockets.
Yeah.
As part of the phones. And that's a kind of a new thing since what, like 2004 when they first started the period. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
But,
I mean, probably
very low quality ones, but
yeah,
some of the cameras like the Google Pixel have amazing cameras. But
now I mean a lot of phones have like when I was researching about buying my camera, like so many camera blogs were like, you should just get an iPhone 10. And it's like, that's not the point for me. No. I want to learn some of
No, I have very bad phones. My phones don't really cost that much, like 150 euro. Camera's always quite poor on it.
Yeah.
Because I just
Also, I like separating it as a thing where it's like, sometimes I'm making the decision to bring my camera out with me, and the idea is that this venture into the world is about taking photos. And sometimes I also like to go for a hike or go for a walk, not bring my camera, and it's just, then it's like I'm not thinking about it. But if it's something that you always have with you, then it can always turn into like a photo op or
Yeah.
whatever. And I think there's something beautiful sometimes about there being like you seeing the fact that this is like an amazing potential for a little video or a photo, and you don't have your camera, and you have to just say, well, I'm gonna enjoy this moment here. And yeah, it's in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that can happen all the time. But yeah, it's important to just to yeah, even with while holding camera, it's also very important to be mindful of the situation you've encountered, and just be like, this is actually like, take the photo, and then just kind of bask in the glow of like, wow, this is a great moment, like,
Yeah.
and just kind of stand there and just be like, I love being alive, kind of.
Yeah.
This is great. This is great.
That's funny that you say that. I love that. Like, I love being alive, because I remember I came up somehow with this mantra. The very first trip I took, I like quit my office job, and I was living out of my car, traveling into the national parks in the Western United States. And I just remember at some moment being like, holy shit, like, this is my life. Like, this is my life right now. And that's something that stuck with me through my travels, where I'll have this moment where you walk out onto the street in a new city, or you get to a view in a new place. And there's something so special about that moment of like, holy shit, this is my life right now.
Yeah. Those kind of light bulb moments can really kind of shake you and wake you. I had a very similar one that you were talking about. I was on a bus going just over the border, I think from Chile to Peru, and we were coming down through this kind of mountain range, and it was like desert all around, and the bus was like swinging to the left and swinging to the right, so the vista was changing every few seconds outside either side of the bus. And I was like, just had this, like, I think I was listening to music at the time, like music and travel together is just the best way to live. But yeah, I was just like, wow, this is so cool. I love this feeling of just being here right now. I can't believe I've achieved this. I mean, just sitting on a bus, but it was a great moment.
Yeah.
And it brings me back to something I wanted to mention earlier, was about how travel can well, I'll start from the start. Let's say when you are born and you get to about 7 years old, like when I think back to my earliest memories of being like 4 or something like that. Can you remember one of your first memories, or even up?
Yeah. So I mean, my earliest memories, it's like, it feels like a still photograph somehow, and then usually there's like an emotion or a sense thing where it's like a smell or a feeling or something, when I'm talking about like those ages, like 4, 5 years old. Yeah.
But doesn't that feel like a different lifetime ago almost?
It feels totally...
Yeah, when I think back to my first memory, like when I was 4 or 5, or maybe the first day of school, or just the first memories of school, or the first time it snowed, all these little things. But that's like thousands of years ago, like thousands of years ago. It's for me, it's less than 30. I turned 30 a couple of weeks ago, but it feels like a long time ago. And I sort of thought about this quite a lot over the last 10, 15 years. I was like, why does it feel so long ago? Because, I remember last year pretty clearly. It feels like last year, even though it was kind of a same amount of time. Like, it was only 7 years of let's say 0 to 7. Only 7 years of life happened there, but it feels like 1,000 years. Like, why is that? The brain is seeing everything for the first time. It's the first time you get on a bus. It's the first time you are alone without your parents. It's the first time you're, passing through the bus and going through a brand new city, and your brain is just taking everything in. Every street that you walk down is brand new. So your brain is working extremely hard to try and keep up. And that just creates a much more juicy kind of really intense life. Your brain having to work so hard, and then as you get older, things sort of slip into routines, and your brain obviously recognizes streets, recognizes the sky, recognizes people's faces, and everything becomes a little less new to the brain, so it doesn't have to work as hard. Therefore, time will pass a bit quicker because the brain is not in survival mode or trying to take everything in. So I was like, yeah, well, why don't I just make everything new all the time?
Yeah.
I was like, if everything's new all the time, then life's gonna feel longer. So if I'm walking in, like when I'm walking to or from someplace, I'm always like, I'll go one way, but I'm gonna come home another.
Yeah.
I don't want to go up and back the same way. Like even when I came here, I took the train, but I'm gonna walk home.
Yeah.
With my camera and take photographs.
It's interesting. I've had kind of similar thoughts, and like it's one of the things that I love about like being here, for example, where I love that like mundane, boring shit feels a little bit more like an adventure, whether it's taking the train or going to the grocery store. And it's embarrassingly enough, like I really don't have like any German. I really should have more for the amount of time I've spent here, but I enjoy the adventure of the fact that it's like I can't read the labels, and I'm kind of like feeling my way around and being like, I recognize this, I think this is what I want. Or they're making some announcement on the train, I don't know what's happening, but everybody's getting off, so I'm gonna get off and I'm gonna have to figure it out. Like it just adds this little extra level of like, or layer of kind of adventure.
Yeah.
That I really enjoy. I do also wonder though, like because this phenomenon of like, as you get older, time seems to start to go faster.
Quicken up, yeah.
But that also kind of makes sense to me from a logical standpoint of like, if you've lived 5 years, that's like only 5 years. But when you've lived 30 years, 5 years in the scale of 30 is smaller.
Yeah.
5 years is even smaller in the scale of 50 years, 60 years. So it makes sense that the more life you live, the faster it seems to feel like it's going
that's a good
by.
point, yeah.
But I do think that this is like a little hack to that, like when you are challenging your brain and giving it some new experiences, and this actually I think bridges nicely into talking about like doing comedy and stuff. That's part of what draws me to doing it, is that I get fucking nervous beforehand, and that's thrilling.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy that somehow. Even if it goes badly, it's still like it's something. It's a moment of heightened emotion and feeling, which doesn't just naturally happen all the time in normal day-to-day life.
Yeah, I mean, well, you can get it kind of speaking a new language, let's say. Like that can be those little things when you're like, oh shit, like what do I say? You have to kind of lay out the sentence in your head. That's another reason why I love living abroad, and not just abroad like in Australia or Canada or the States, but I love living in countries that their first language is not English, because then also you have this air of challenge, like we said earlier on. Like every day you like kind of learn a new word or a new phrase or something like that. But also when you're in a cafe and you're just reading a book and everyone else is speaking German, so you're not like distracted. There's nothing worse than when you're in a cafe trying to read a book and just the table next to you is just like, so Tom and Anne got together last night, and then you're like,
can you believe it?
Yeah, and you're just like, actually I do want to hear this, and then you just don't get your reading done. Yeah, that can be frustrating, but being everyone here just speaking German, it's just like your brain just switches off and you just see you in the book. But yeah, the nervousness going on stage, yeah, I mean, it's I think
is that part of what draws you to perform, or like when I guess a good question would be like, when did you start?
I'm gonna have to take a break.
Yeah, take a piss, please. So where we left off was kind of, I guess, what led you to start wanting to do stand-up comedy or get on stage?
So I don't know when it began. I don't know when I first knew that I kind of wanted to be somewhat of a performer. Probably goes back to when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and remembering being in my grandmother's house, and one of, I think it was one of her sisters or her aunts, or my mother's aunt, so was a performer. She did theatre and stuff in Dublin, and she was kind of doing this song or a poem or something like that. And I remember just being really small, about knee height, and just looking around at all these people, and just one grey-haired lady just kind of casting a spell over everybody. And I was like, wow, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Like, that just kind of feels like, wow, look at everyone is enchanted by this person. So I think that was the first time I was like, wow, that's kind of a cool thing. But like, didn't do any drama school, didn't really do anything within school. I just sort of became one of the jokers, because I kind of started to realize I enjoyed the being the center of attention.
Yeah.
So there was
were there, sorry to interrupt, but like when you were in that age range of like, you know, your childhood or whatever, do you have specific memories of like comedians or comedic shows or movies that like you remember being kind of enthralled by? I mean, like for me, for example, like my godparents, when I'd go to visit them, we would always watch Saturday Night Live, and that was like, when I look back now, I'm like, oh yeah, that was kind of
what
a big
age?
influence. I was probably starting at like 7 or 8 years old.
Okay.
Or like my parents at some point rented a Robin Williams like stand-up kind of special, and I remember just like us dying laughing at that, and that be like, when I look back, being like, oh yeah, that was like my first exposure to this kind of art form, for lack of a better term, I guess.
Stand-up comedy didn't happen. I didn't really know anything about it until I was 12, 13. Then it started appearing on Irish television. They used to show the Montreal film festival, or sorry, film festival, the comedy festival. They would show kind of half-an-hour excerpts, and I was like, "Whoa, these guys are hilarious. These guys and girls are absolutely hilarious. This is amazing!" Like, and I was just like, kind of thought that was awesome. Before that, though, I mean, didn't watch any comedy, stand-up comedy. It was kind of the films of Robin Williams and Jim Carrey. I kind of really like those Monty Python sketches and things like that. I mean, the list is endless.
Was there stuff that was like specifically Irish, or was it more kind of the American Canadian stuff?
There was like a TV show called Father Ted.
Okay.
Have you heard of Father Ted before?
I haven't.
All right, yeah, it's kind of a silly show. Looking back at it now, it's hard to show somebody, but I think at the time it was pretty radical. But it's about a few priests who live on an island off the west coast of Ireland.
Okay.
And there's kind of
the concept already sounds funny.
Yeah. On Craggy Island is the name of the island. It's about the shenanigans they get up to, and the messes they find themselves in. There's this seemingly regular character who's surrounded by idiots and fools. So it's his mess trying to find his way in life through all these crazy characters. But like that was one show. That'd be one Irish experience, and then just kind of on late night TV shows like Billy Connolly. Actually, he's not Irish, but he's Scottish. But I remember feeling his energy and being like, this guy is absolutely hilarious. But yeah, stand up didn't come till I was 12, 13 or something like that. It was the first time it appeared on, and I was like, wow, they're just going on and talking, and I'm laughing my head off. Like, these guys are amazing. So at that point, I was like, I'm definitely going to do comedy before I'm 18. And I started like writing a couple of jokes and then put them. I never did anything with them. I was just like, oh yeah, I'll write this now. And then in 3 years, when I'm 17, I'll come back and finish that and I'll do it. And then by the time I was 17, I was like, nah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to travel. Like, definitely want to travel for the next like 15, 20 years. Yeah, so I didn't do it, but I did do some performance. I played a gay barman in a musical in school, and then sort of a comedic character in a play as well. I really enjoyed that. Like when I was 16 and then 17, and then that was my first kind of like, wow, I love this performance. I can't believe like the words that I'm saying are being listened to by the 300 people in the crowd. It's just like, wow.
Yeah.
And the rehearsals, the banter with the other cast members, it was kind of a dream-like experience that I still would like to get back into, to be honest.
Yeah. And so then you're traveling. Is it in the back of your head that like, someday, like, do you have like little bits or jokes kind of come to you sometimes, or are you in a situation and think like, man, like I have to try to find a way to tell this because it's a funny experience or story? Like, is that kind of stuff happening? Or
there's an inner monologue going on all the time. All the time.
I really identify with
that. Yeah. But I never listened. I never wrote anything down. I thought you just like, well, everyone's got an inner monologue. That's not special for a comedian. Everyone's got their own person inside, running the show.
Yeah.
But this inner monologue all the time would say like, wouldn't it be funny if that happened, or isn't that interesting if that thing didn't happen and that thing did happen? And like that's been happening in my head for a long time. And then I eventually, when I was traveling in China, I was like, actually, I'm on my way to Melbourne, and I haven't done any comedy yet, so I think it's about time I at least did one. So I started doing it over there in Australia. I did like, I don't know, 7 gigs or something like that.
And how did you find the open mic scene
over
there?
Like, first gig I went to, signed up, I was the 42nd person to go on stage that night.
Shit.
So everyone did 4 minutes. Like I got there at like 7:05, and eventually went on stage at about 10 to midnight. I mean, it's in a way it's not the worst thing because you're watching stand-up comedy, like, and you're watching people be absolutely shit at it, and then a lot of good people as well. But you're seeing people bomb like really terribly, and you're like, wow, if they've bombed this bad, then I don't think I could bomb as bad as they just did there. So
I'm so happy you said that, because I've literally thought that to myself before, and I've said that, like, I have a friend who is like, I'd like to go, and I'm like, dude, just come and watch some of the other people, because that can give you some confidence to be like, well, you know what, like, this is what the worst case scenario looks like.
Yeah,
it'll be okay.
Yeah. Although it's not okay when I get
Yeah.
So that was the first one I did. It was like, got on about 10 to midnight, and there was about 7 people left, and everyone's a comedian there. There was no kind of punters, as we'd say in Ireland. So most of the time, those people are coming on after me as well. So it was going up to like 49, 50 comedians. So they're just there watching me, but they're also thinking about their own sets as well. So they're not exactly 100% paying attention to you. So that's, I think I got a couple of giggles or something like that. Something like, something like that. And you're like, that's okay. That's better than nothing.
Take it.
Yeah. So then I was like, that was a Friday night, and I did another one on the Sunday. And I was like, new room. This one might be good. Like, let's see how it goes. And it was kind of like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the early evening in Australia in the summertime. So the sun was kind of beaming in through the windows, which didn't really give off a stand-up gig that I'd always envisaged of the spotlight on you, and the fact that you can't really see the crowd because of the spotlight. You can only see kind of the feet of the people in front of you. But in this case, you could see absolutely everything. So I tried a couple of jokes, and then there was a woman sitting like right at the front, and after I did the punchline, she was just like, and I was like, okay, like obviously she didn't like the joke, and I'll just do the next joke.
Okay, so we left off and you were, before the camera died here, that you were kind of saying, you did these first couple shows in Melbourne, and how did you find that?
Yeah, first, like, just the sheer amount of comedians that were going. Like, first night I did it was like 40 seconds comedian going up. Second time I got there super early, and I went up like 6th.
The sun shining through the window.
Yeah, and that was
the guy eating the burger, unimpressed.
And then, like, I got off stage and I was like, oh my God, like, where do I even go to escape this?
Yeah.
It's a bit like getting turned down by a girl, except everyone in the bar is the girl. So everywhere you turn, they're just like, no. So the best thing to do is just leave. Just left the bar. Like, oh, that was bad. But that's the worst one I've had. That experience, the second one.
And did you take a break after that, or did you just try to get right back into it?
I went back a couple of days later. Not that room, but a different place.
Different spot.
And yeah, just did. I mean, obviously, as you know, if something doesn't work, you change it around, you modify it and stuff like that. But yeah, it's kind of just left the place going like, oh my God, I really don't think I can actually do this. Like, really. Maybe this is not for me. Maybe I just think I can do it. But
so what was there a moment or a show that you walked out thinking like, fuck, this is not even necessarily like, oh, I can do this, but there's something thrilling here that is going to keep me coming back to it?
Yeah, that was because I did a few more gigs, because I was preparing, because I was going to do a stand-up workshop crash course that was going to last like 4 nights. So it was 4 nights with a comedian, and he kind of gives you pointers and explanations about what kind of jokes there are, experience of like 20-25 years of doing it all around Australia. So that was great. That was so good, and I definitely recommend anybody that would want to start doing it to do that, because it basically gives you so much stage time, because you're going in at, like, let's say it was 5 o'clock till 8 o'clock or something like that every evening, but like you're up on stage every 45 minutes or something like that, doing a 5-minute set, and you just need that. It was a bit like doing open mic gigs for 3 months, but in 4 nights.
Yeah.
So you just get used to, holding the mic, get used to just being on stage in general. That was great. So on the final night, we had a show where you invite your friends and family that have come to that you can invite to the gig, and everyone performs and stuff like that. And that went pretty well. So after that, I was like, wow, this is actually, I guess I probably could continue this. Yeah.
No, I was gonna just say, like, I had a similar experience. Like, when I first started, when I was like 22, I did a comedy, workshop kind of thing, and exactly what you're saying, like getting up there. Also, like, to have to get up once a week in this like well lit room with a bunch of other people who are like trying to be comedians, and you're like the feeling of saying something, not really getting such a great like response, and then just soldiering through that, I feel like was incredibly helpful in keeping me trying to
yeah that's what a lot of comedians will say, like, to newcomers. It's like, you could start out doing comedy, and your first gig might go extremely well, second gig might go extremely well, and that'll keep you coming back. But then it's all about when it doesn't go well, when you absolutely bomb, and how can you respond to that.
So what is like kind of your like creative process or like writing process? Do you like sit down and write out things? Do you jot stuff down in your phone when it pops in your head? Like, what's your
so the first set of jokes I wrote while I was in China, in preparation, because I was like, before I do that course, I want to just go and do it and see what I'm like without any pointers whatsoever. Just going on just naked, not naked, but you know what I mean. So I wrote loads of stories about funny things that were happening in China, because there was funny things happening all the time over there, So yeah, I started writing them out, and then just kind of the funny thoughts these days, just kind of that pop into your head, or oh, that's kind of funny. That might be funny. Just write it down your phone, and then probably put it onto a document on the computer, and just kind of write it out, and be just like trying to find a punchline. Sometimes you write out a story and there's just no punchline. You're just like, well, I don't know if I can use that then. It's a nice story to tell, but there's no real kind of hook to it. But yeah, in general, just taking notes as you go living throughout your day. Just kind of as soon as something funny pops into your head, write it down. That's what I was told by the lads in Melbourne. Just always be writing down anything that you think might be remotely funny. Is worth putting down at least onto your phone, and then trying it once or twice, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But there always might be that golden nugget that does work, and that'll become.
That's it. Kind of leads into another question I wanted to ask about, which was like, so do you have any? I mean, this is, I think, what part of what draws me to trying to do stand up is like I enjoy feeling like sometimes I think that I have like a really good idea and I bring it and I'm like, this is going to work, and it really doesn't. And sometimes I have something that I'm like, I don't know, this is just a little thing I'll throw on the end, and it's like, oh wow, like this is really I think part of that like mystery and trying to figure that out is appealing to me. But I was wondering, like, do you have, like, I have a couple of premises where I'm like, I know that there is something funny here. I haven't figured out how to say it in the right way that the audience also thinks it's funny, but like I can't give up on it yet. You know, do you have any of those? How do you deal with that kind of, do you if you try something a couple times, do you just throw it away? Do you sometimes be like, well, I'm going to put it away and come back to it, or
so there's a bit that I have that I know, like you say, is just, it has to get a bit of a laugh. There has to, because it kind of keeps the momentum of the joke running. And I've tried it so many different ways, and it's not getting that crushing laughter that you want. It's getting a kind of a chuckle here and there as part of the larger part of a larger joke. So it's kind of a tag in that sense, but I've tried so many different ways with it, but I still have not stopped saying it either. I'm gonna keep at it, because I actually thought this to myself. I was like, it didn't go well again tonight. Like, I'll just try another few things.
Yeah.
But every time I haven't given it up. No, I'll keep at it. There's another example of things that I know will work, but could work in one country, but maybe not in others. So there's jokes about Germany that work really well in Australia, but I've brought them over here and tried them out, and no, it's the beginning of the bottom of a set. Like, especially when you open with a joke about, the military past of Germany. Because it worked really well in Australia. So I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's just give it a shot. And then I tried it over here, and just really, it's not received in the same way. But I'm not giving up on it either, because I know it's worth it.
Well, and it's also interesting where you start to like play around with like which bits go where, and you're like, okay, if I start with this, it's a bit abrasive, but if I kind of establish some sort of rapport with the audience, they're on my side.
Yeah.
Then if I come with it later, they're a bit more open to laughing up this maybe like kind of more fucked up idea or something.
Yeah, because I was putting it in at the start.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of being bold by doing that in Australia, which was fine. But transferring it over here did not work. But yeah, I still have to rearrange things and try that again. I need to bathroom.
Yeah, please, man.
Really, I got a small bladder.
Yeah.
All right, ready?
Yeah. So I feel like I've kind of gone through most of my questions here, but the last thing I wanted to ask you about was kind of, you've done stand up in Australia, it sounds like, and then also here. I don't. Have you done it other places as well? Have you ever done it in Ireland or?
No, not yet.
So I guess my question is just like for me, I started doing it in San Francisco, and I've done it now again since because I started when I was like 22, and then after a year I quit, and now I've started doing it again. And I first started actually.
So why did you stop when you were 23?
Is it? I don't. It's hard for me to say. Like I feel like, at the time I felt like I don't have anything to say. I'm 23. Like
that's why I did. Yeah.
And so I was kind of making some jokes that I was like, these are not, like my parents are lesbians, and it's like, I still like to do jokes about that because it's like, it's part of my, experience in my childhood and stuff. But I feel like the jokes that I'm doing now are true to my experience. And the jokes I was doing when I was like 22 or 23 were just kind of like, haha, my moms are lesbians, and not necessarily like me sharing something about my childhood, or my experience. And, I think the other part of it was I was young and like kind of just a wimp about it. And I did it for a year and then felt like, maybe something more should have happened. Honestly, the third part of it, if I'm being super honest, is like I also really got into like raving and like doing drugs at this time, and I just was like, I just want to do this now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was just I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
But it was always the whole time. It was always in my head of like something that I felt like I need to come back to. And then I was here and I saw a sign actually out front of Cosmic one day when I was walking around the city, and I was like, I didn't know they had English comedy in Berlin. And then I kind of started looking at it and I was like, there's a whole scene here. This feels like a safe, fun place to like try to get back into it.
Yep.
And I did, and I had like such an amazing experience. And then I went back home, and actually I much prefer the scene here than I do to San Francisco, just because in San Francisco, my experience was mostly a lot more like your first time in Melbourne, where it's like, it's just a well-lit bar with a room full of comedians, no audience.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of thinking about their act. So it's kind of really harder to get a gauge of,
how you're progressing.
How you're progressing. And here, one, there are audiences, which I think is really great.
Probably the most important thing.
Probably the
In
most
fact,
important
it is the most
it
important
is-
thing
it
because
is the
it's
penultimate part.
yeah.
But also the other thing I enjoy about the scene here is that like, because Berlin is an international city, getting to the other comedians, what they're talking about is like more interesting to me. In San Francisco, it's like a bunch of other Californian white guys basically. It's not super diverse, and so it's not necessarily so, what they're saying is not necessarily so interesting.
Okay.
And I also get a thrill from when I see someone and I'm like, fuck, they are funnier than me in their second language. Like that pushes me to be like, I really gotta like try to get my shit together and step up my game, like that. I enjoy that part of the scene as well.
Yeah.
So how do you, your experience in Melbourne versus here, how do you find the scene here, and what are your kind of like thoughts on the Berlin?
Golden.
Yeah.
It's golden, it feels. I've got not much to compare with, but from the stories I've heard of other comedians that have been in London or Dublin or my own experience in Melbourne or other places, this is kind of a golden scene to be in because there's so much opportunity to be face to face with an audience, and not just 40 other comedians or 10 other comedians or 15 other comedians, where your stuff is not getting reviewed. It's not a real review if it's just you and comedians. Like it gives you 5 minutes of stage time, so that's 5 minutes more just to feel every 5 minutes is important. But it's really, really great here. There's a lot of opportunities for spots, I'd like some more.
Yeah.
I'd like to be doing more. I mean, ideally, I'd love to be doing it kind of, 4 to 6, 7 nights a week would be awesome. I've hit like 3, 4, kind of an average maybe. But I would like to be doing it as much as possible. Obviously, we won't have that opportunity now for the full month of November. Everything will be closed. So it remains to be seen what we can do again. But I've been very surprised at it's the fact that coming from Melbourne, where you're the 42nd up with nobody in the audience, to here when you're on a stage that's well lit, that's got a spotlight, and you've got tables with candles on them, just like in the movies.
Yeah.
And you got couples,
like in the movie.
Yeah, you've got the couples there, you've got groups of friends together, and upwards of, averages like between 25 and 30 maybe is probably a good shout. But up to 40, like, in a small room, low ceilings, like that's kind of, I'm just a bit worried that it might be too easy streets. Berlin might be too easy growing stage. Like,
I've wondered.
We're treated well here. Like we get it easy when you go to a place like, anywhere somewhere in the back arts of nowhere, and they're just like, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, you're shite, and then like get heckled and stuff. There's no heckling here. People do not heckle in Berlin, so it will get more difficult anywhere else, I imagine.
Yeah, that's true. And that's something, like I was saying actually to Chris, who runs that Laughing Spree where we met.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I like it here because there's like an audience, and I feel like with an audience you get I feel like you can get better faster because you have a real sense of like, okay, that works, that doesn't work, Sorry. But what he was saying was, he was like, yeah, that's true, but also, and I mean, like, I've listened to a lot of comedy podcasts, and like a lot of comedians say, it's like the way you really cut your teeth and get really, really funny is in those rooms where it's like people don't give a shit. And then it's like, or it's just a bunch of comedians, and it's like, well, you have to, if you can make them laugh, then you can really be funny.
Yeah.
But so I hadn't thought about this problem of the fact that like maybe these are like too easy of audience or something, but it is an interesting thing to think about. Sorry, I interrupted you. What were you gonna say?
I can't remember now. Sorry.
Well, so do you try to do anything to challenge yourself extra if you feel like the rooms are easier here, or do you like seek out some of the mics that are a little bit less, I don't know,
gratuitous with their laughter?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll basically just be doing whatever I can. It doesn't really matter, but it kind of depends on, like, going to a particular club, let's say on an open mic night, so that's a sign up. This is going to be probably a more challenging audience. Like, I'm thinking of Ma's Comedy Club that opened up recently. Still garnering a name for itself. For the open mic night. Anyway, actually, I think it might have even stopped as of yesterday. Or
I think
or
last
Tuesday,
night was the last one. Yeah.
But that was
Tuesday,
interesting to go there and have 3 people in the audience, and the rest were comedians, and just to get not the most amazing reaction, but get a couple of giggles here and there. But it's very important to face the silence as well. Like, it's just, you just have to do it.
And also, I think there's something to be gained by you have that huge silence, like you offer up this idea or this thing that you think is funny, and just there's that no reaction, and it's like how you kind of deal with that in the moment is, I mean, that's also good practice.
There's a few techniques that I've noticed over the last few months of people when they've delivered the punchline. So they'd be like, and then she said to me, maybe later, and they'll do that. They'll be waiting for the laugh, but they're still speaking. But like, they'll have delivered the punchline, and then the laugh might start, and they'll be like, and so that if it doesn't work, if the punchline doesn't land whatsoever, they can just continue on with the. And but then I was like, like,
Do you
it's
address?
a good defense mechanism, but I guess if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But it's
Yeah.
probably just a habit thing. I'll have to try it myself, actually.
Do you address it if you, or do you just soldier on into the next?
I don't ever fuck up, so. No, I fuck up all the time. Yeah. There's been a mix. There's been a mix of addressing it. Addressing it is probably the most important thing. I mean, sometimes the biggest laugh of the night will be you addressing how shit your joke went. I remember doing Cosmic a couple of weeks ago, and I think I got flashed for the minute, but I wasn't flashed. It turns out he was just looking at his phone or something like that.
Oh,
So
shit.
I was like, oh shit, I've only got a minute left. I was like, fuck. And I was like, I better cut out that joke then in my head. And then I finished the joke that I was doing, and then I was like, so blah blah blah, and I was like, you know what, fuck that joke, actually it doesn't work. It's a shit joke anyway, the one that I was taking out because I thought I had a minute left, and everyone just burst out laughing. They fucking loved it, and I was like, I wish I could do that every time, but because it was so fucking blatantly honest, like, nah, fuck that joke, I don't have time for that, or that's shit or something. Anyway, everyone just burst out laughing. That was the biggest laugh of the night because it was, you know, authentic. It came across as I really hated it. But yeah, addressing it will get you more laughter, and I think if you don't address it every time, or it comes across much more professional. You know, when I was in Melbourne, used to go to this great little spot called The Local, and there'd be comedians that were going to perform at the Melbourne Comedy Festival. So they were coming here to prepare. So they're doing about 20-minute set each, and trying a lot of new material. And if it didn't go well, they're like, guys, I'm a comedian, I know that's funny, like, you don't know it's funny. And they would all burst out laughing because, I mean, the new shit they try would only be 8 to 12 minutes into the set. They would never try it at the beginning. They would get everybody on their side with the good shit, and then they can try whatever they want. And once they've got them in the palm of their hand, then they can just say, you know what, fuck you, that was funny. And everyone will just burst out laughing. So addressing it is entirely important, I'd say.
Yeah, it is also interesting too to find that balance between, you don't want to do the same jokes every time, and you know, usually if I'm doing the same joke, I'm usually trying to tweak it somehow or find some little way to like add something or try something new. But it's like you need to have a balance of like, you want to do a couple things that work usually at the beginning and at the end, and then you have some time in the middle to play around with some trying new ideas or whatever. How do you strike that balance?
Very good question. So the first new material night I did at Space Medusa here in Berlin, I went up. I'd spoken to Rob Moriarty, another Irish comedian, very funny man. He was telling me, like, oh, if you're doing the new comedy, like, just do new stuff, like, just do everything new, like, that's why it's called New Comedy Night or New Material Night. And I was like, yeah, cool. I'll do everything brand new. And I went up and did everything brand new for like, they gave me 5 minutes, I think it was, and a lot of it did not go well. Like, I didn't have any preparatory jokes, to get them on my side. I just went straight into all the new stuff, and some of it was really terrible, but I actually came away using, one or two jokes that would enter into my main set, because I guess I had just done it once. But if I was to do it again, because I noticed all the other comedians, because after being on the circuit for a while, most of the other comedians' main sets, let's say. I noticed that they did most of their normal set for 2.5 minutes, let's say, and then tried new stuff, and then finished off with something that was like A+ material, let's say. But I had not done that whatsoever. So, next time I do it, I might actually just give a couple of jokes that I know would work, just to let them know, like, oh yeah, this guy's, we can trust him, and then just do full material after that. full new material after that. Just as a kind of a cushion, let's say. So I probably would do that next time I do new material evening. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like we've kind of covered it all, man. Do you have anything else you want to add? Maybe if you want to tell people, like, if they're interested to check out some of your videos.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah. So anybody that's ever been interested in travel and what it's like when you just show up to a place, not exactly with a 100% plan in mind, but just you've got an A point and you got a B point or a Z point, whatever. And you just show up and just see what's in the country. Like I was talking about, putting your hand through the map and just being like, what the fuck is it like in Zambia? Like, what do they eat for dinner in Zambia? What time do they have dinner? Like, who sits around at dinner? Is it a 4-hour meal or is it half an hour meal? What is it like? That's kind of what I'd love to explore. So it's called Out of Curiosity. You find it on YouTube.
Out of Curiosity on YouTube, and I will link to that in the description. And do you have any social media or anything that people can know about your stand-up or find clips of your stuff? Or
there on that same page, there's about a 5-minute set that I've got up.
Okay.
But I haven't been putting up lots of clips yet. But I'll when I get much better, maybe I'll do it then.
Cool. Well, check out of Curiosity on YouTube. The link will be in the description. Thank you so much. This was super fun, man.
Yeah, it was great.
Hell yeah. Awesome.